Good day folks, my name is Sean and welcome to my channel. So GoPro has recently launched the Hero 12 Black, and every year when they release a new camera, I like to create a beginner's guide to help those who are maybe perhaps brand new get up and running and familiarized with their new hardware. These cameras are super easy to use, but they can be a little complicated if you've never used one before. Once you get the hang of it, they become really easy. Now in this video, we're going to stick to the basics. We're going to go over all the menu systems, how to record, how to charge, what type of memory to use. But if you do want to learn more, you can subscribe to my channel as I do make other advanced tutorials throughout the year. Stuff you may want to know about your Hero 12 Black. So with all that said, let's just jump right in and get started. So we're going to take a look at the hardware first and everything that comes inside the box. Now I've already had mine open. I just put everything back in just so we can go through this together on camera. So let's go ahead and we'll take it out here. Now, one thing you're going to notice right away when you open up, there's some literature packed in the top of the box. Just some basic information. But one thing you will notice is this card at the top. And this card is important because it states that the camera must be updated before we can use it. So that means we do have to download the GoPro Quick app so we can download and update the firmware. You can download the Quick app from the Google Play Store, or if you're using iOS, you can download it from the Apple App Store. Other than that, some basic literature there. So inside the box here, we're going to have a battery. We're going to have a charging and data cable. This is USB-C to USB-A. We have a buckle mount. This is for mounting the GoPro, and we're going to take a look at mounting techniques here coming up in a minute. And we have a buckle mount receiver. This is adhesive and it has a curved surface. So this is good for things like helmets, things with a slightly curved surface. You can purchase ones that have a completely flat surface, but those are an optional accessory. And then down the bottom we have a thumb screw, again for mounting, which we will take a look at here in a minute. On the other side we actually have the camera. Now when you get yours and you open up the box, it's going to be covered in a series of stickers, basically covering the screens to protect them during shipping. So you'll just have to go ahead and remove them. Now this front screen sticker is a little tricky to get off. For some reason the glue is a little extra sticky on it. So I'm just going to zoom in here and we're going to take a look at the camera and some of the buttons and what everything is for. This here is obviously our lens, and it is actually removable. So if you happen to damage it, crack it, or scratch it, you can order replacements from the GoPro website. Basically it just twists off like that and it can be replaced. You also may want to remove it if you purchase accessories such as ND filters or the Max Lens mod which GoPro sells, which we will touch base at the end of this video. Beside that, we have a preview screen. Now this is not a touch screen, it's just to basically give you a preview of what you're filming, and that can be very useful when you're trying to frame shots or if you're using the GoPro to vlog, because you'll be able to see what you're filming. On this side of the camera, we have a power and mode button. And that's how we can power on the camera, power it off, but we can also switch filming modes. Below that, I get this question a lot. They ask what's underneath this door. This is not a door. Don't try and open it. If you try to force that open, you will break it. That's actually a microphone under there, and it's specially designed to help water drain out quickly. The whole point of that microphone is to help get you good audio. If you're underwater and you come back out, you should be able to get good audio quicker. On the bottom of the camera, we have our finger mounts. These are how we mount the camera. And they fold out just like that. And this year, something that is new is we actually have a 1/4-20 at the bottom. That's like a standard tripod mount. So some accessories you can just screw right into the bottom now. That's new this year with the Hero 12. On the other side of the camera here, we have a door. And to open the door, we're going to pull down on this tab. And you'll see that it will pop open right away. And this door is actually removable. If you kind of press up on it, you can see it comes right off. Some accessories you actually have to take this door off in order to use. For example, the media mod. If you want to insert your GoPro in the media mod to connect a microphone, you do have to remove this door. Underneath that door, you can see we have a spot for our battery. We have a little tiny slot there for the memory card, which we'll take a closer look at here in a minute. And then below that, we have a USB-C. That USB-C can be used to charge the camera, but you can also use it for transferring files. To replace the door, you just have to line up the groove in the top of the door with that bar at the top. And it just clips back in. At the back here, this is our main screen. This is a touch screen. This is how we input all our settings, and we can also obviously get a preview of what we're filming. At the top here, we have our shutter button. Of course, this is used to capture video, take photos, start time lapses or hyperlapses, and that's a basic layout of the camera. So let's talk a little bit about mounting a GoPro, because there's two different types of methods and two different types of accessories you're going to encounter. GoPros use kind of like a finger mounting system, and it's a really good system. It makes it very secure when attached to different devices. And especially when you're traveling at high rates of speed, if you've got a GoPro mounted to the outside of a vehicle, a motorcycle, you want something that is going to be secure and isn't going to move when it's mounted. So when you're purchasing accessories or you're going to mount, you're going to run into two types of mounts. Ones that already have a finger mount built in, and you're also going to run into certain accessories that have a buckle mount system. Now basically that is basically the same, but with it, you're going to be using the buckle mount that comes with the GoPro. And the idea behind this buckle mount is that you can move it from accessory to accessory quick and easy. Instead of having to undo the thumb screw every time, you can just undo the buckle mount and move it to a different accessory. But that only works if the accessory you want to move it to has a buckle mount receiver. Now, for example, here is a floating hand grip that GoPro sells. And as you can see at the top there, it has the buckle mount receiver. So we can take the buckle mount that came with our GoPro, slide it in there, lock it in, and now we just have our traditional finger mounts at the top. Where this is another accessory GoPro sells, this is kind of an extension pole and tripod all built into one. And it already comes with a finger mount at the top. There is no buckle mount. So those are the two main types of mounts that you're going to encounter. And it works similar to this mount that came with the GoPro as well. You can stick to this to anything that has a curved surface and then use your buckle mount, and you can move and mount your GoPro in that as well. Mounting a GoPro is very simple. We just unfold the finger mounts from the bottom. If there's a thumb screw in it, just take that out. We slide those fingers into the receiver, insert the thumb screw and tighten it up, and there we go. And depending on how much you tighten up that thumb screw, that's going to dictate how easily that camera can be moved around. So like I said, if you have this mounted on the outside of a car and you're capturing a time lapse or something, or a driving time lapse, you want to make sure that's tightened right up so the wind doesn't move the camera. Whereas if you just have it on a hand grip, you might want to have it a little looser, and that way you can adjust it as need be. And lastly, for mounting, as mentioned, new this year, we have that 1/4 at the very bottom. No GoPro has ever had that in the past, but this year with the Hero 12, if you have any types of extension poles or mounts that have that 1/4 screw at the bottom, you can now screw it directly into your GoPro. Now that works good for mounting on a tripod, but the only thing is using this type of mount, as you can see, we can no longer angle the GoPro. So it doesn't work great for every type of accessory. So now we're going to talk about batteries and how to charge up your GoPro. As mentioned, when you purchase the GoPro, you're going to get a charging cable, but one thing you're going to notice that did not come inside the box is a charging brick. So you do have to provide or purchase one of these yourself. Now most of us have these charging bricks kicking around because it's the same charger for iPads, iPhones, Android phones. Most of the devices that we use today use USB for charging, so most likely you're already going to have some form of compatible charger that will work. If not, GoPro does sell their own branded charger on their website, but you can use any third-party one. They all work well. Anker makes some really nice ones. I use this one here for charging drones, GoPros. It has USB-C charging for fast charging, and it also has a USB-A on it. And you can charge your GoPro with USB-C or with a USB-C to USB-A. Both will work. You will charge it faster with a higher wattage USB-C, however. So to charge the camera, we're going to install the battery. So we're going to open up that door. And to insert the battery, you're going to face the GoPro logo on the front there. You're going to put that towards the front lens. And it just slides down in there. And then of course we're just going to use our charger, plug it into the wall, and use some form of charging cable. It doesn't have to be a GoPro specific cable. If you have longer cables that you like to use, they're all compatible. So to charge the battery, we're now just going to plug it in. And you'll notice a red light come on here. Now that's signifying that the GoPro is charging. There's also one at the front. When the GoPro is fully charged, that red light will go out. Now the other way to charge your batteries is by using an external charger. This one here is the official GoPro charger. Now there are many third-party ones available on Amazon. They all work pretty well the same. If you are going to be buying a third-party charger, just make sure it's one that's designed for the Hero 9, 10, 11, or obviously 12 black. Even one labeled for the Hero 9 black will work because they're all pretty well the same battery. When you purchase the GoPro one, you do get a spare battery with it. And I do highly recommend picking up some spare batteries because these batteries don't last terribly long. And if you're on holidays, you don't want to be stopping all the time to recharge if you only have one battery. I think the sweet spot is about 3 batteries. That's usually what I like to carry with me when on holidays. To use this battery charger, you just simply plug in the battery. You can put 2 batteries in there or just one. And again, just plug it in and we'll get a light there signifying it's charging. Now the benefits of using an external charger is you're not tying up your GoPro to recharge your batteries. If you're using your GoPro to charge your battery, for the most part you can't use it. Whereas if you use an external charger, you can plug in your batteries and continue using your GoPro while your other batteries are charging. The other thing to note is you can actually use your GoPro while it's plugged in. So if you're going to be doing a lot of recording, you can plug it into external power like a power bank or directly into a wall, and that's going to feed it constant power. And that's usually necessary if you're going to be doing things like overnight night lapses. The battery just definitely is not powerful enough to last the whole night, so you will have to plug it into external power. So we've got the GoPro charged now, but now it's time to put some memory in. Now there are a lot of different brands that work well. My favorite brand is SanDisk, and usually I'll use the Extreme or the Extreme Pro. I'll put a link down below for the card that I tend to use most of the time. And you can choose whatever size you want. I usually use 128 gigabytes or 256, but I tend to keep them at 128 gigabytes. I'd rather have 2 128 gigabytes than one 256. And just for the reason being, if one card happens to become corrupt or something happens, you always have a spare with you. And inserting the memory can be a little tricky because it's a tiny little slot that you have to get it into. And basically you want to make sure the graphic of the card is facing the back screen. Just slide it down in. And sometimes you have to use your fingernail to push it in. To remove it, same thing. Use a fingernail or something similar. Push down on it and you'll see it pops out. Some people find it easier to put the memory in and take the memory out when the battery's pulled out. To pull out the battery, you just grab that tab there. You can pull it out. So some people find that a little easier to get at. So now at this point, we've got our battery charged up, we've got our memory installed. So now we're going to have to connect to the GoPro Quick app because we need to update the firmware before we can use it. Now I've already had my firmware updated, so what I'll do is just kind of explain what to do. And I'll show you some screen caps of when I did it a couple weeks ago. But before we get to that point, I'll just show you quickly here how we're going to power the camera on that first time. Basically at the side there, we have a power button. And to power the GoPro on, it's just going to be a quick press. The GoPro is going to beep and it's going to go ahead and power on. To power it off, what we're going to do is a long press. You just press and hold until you hear it beep and the GoPro will go ahead and power off. So at this point now, you're going to download the GoPro Quick app. You can get it from any of the app stores. You're then going to power on your Hero 12 Black and it's going to come up to a setup menu. It's going to ask you a few questions. Eventually you're going to get to a screen where it's going to ask you to connect to the Quick app. What you're going to want to do is launch the Quick app. You can then go over to GoPro, then select Add New Camera. At this point, it should recognize your Hero 12 Black and prompt you to connect. You're just going to follow the on-screen instructions. At some point, it will ask you to name your GoPro, and then it will also ask you to connect to the GoPro's Wi-Fi. That is needed in order to transfer over the updated firmware. Once you've done that, you'll see it transfer over the firmware, and it will start to install. Now, your GoPro may restart several times during the installation process, and it could take upwards of 10 minutes. Just set your camera down and the software will do all the work, and you'll get a notification at the end once the update is complete. At that point, you're free to use your camera. Now, once you've updated the firmware, you don't need that app anymore. You don't have to use the GoPro Quick app in order to use the GoPro. You can actually delete it right off your phone. However, it is a really handy app and you may want to consider keeping it because you can use it as a remote to control your GoPro remotely. You can use it to help frame your shots as you can get a live feed of what you're filming. You can use it to preview your media, stuff you've captured on your GoPro. You can use it to transfer media to different devices. And it also has a built-in editor. It can do all the editing for you, so it is a very handy tool to have. So we're ready to go. We've got the camera updated, we've got everything charged, our memory in, so we can now start using the camera. Now we're going to power it on, and one thing you're going to notice right away, as a new GoPro, it's going to go into a mode called Easy Mode. GoPro has introduced two modes, Easy Mode and Pro Mode. Easy Mode is geared to brand new users. It's just like it sounds, it's very easy to use. Or we can switch it over into Pro Mode. That's going to give us some more advanced features that we can set ourselves. And we're going to take a look at both modes here. Okay, so I'm just changing the camera view here so we can take a close-up of the menu system. So what we're going to do at this point is we're going to power on our GoPro. Now, as mentioned, there are two different modes, and by default it's going to come right into the Easy Mode. And Easy Mode is designed just to make things very simple. It gives us just a few basic things we can change. So let's take a quick look at Easy Mode and how to use it. Now by default, when you power on the GoPro, it's going to be in video mode. And we know we're in video mode because at the top of the camera here, you can see a little picture of a video camera. Now I'll show you how to switch modes here in a second. But let's take a look around the interface. Over here we have our battery level. You can see we have 83%. When we're charging the camera, if we have the camera powered on and we're charging it, we'll get a little lightning bolt there as well, signifying that the camera is charging. At the top here, again, these are our modes. You can see we have a dot to this side of it, we have a dot to that side of it. As we switch modes, you can see that camera changed from the middle. We're now in time-lapse mode. If we swipe over the other way, you can see it's now switched to a little camera. That means we are now in photo mode. The other way to switch modes is by using the power button at the side, which is also a mode button. So we can press on that, just a single quick press. You can see that'll cycle through the different modes as well. Now there is a third way to change modes, and that's using our voice, but we are going to take a look at that a little bit later on in the video. So let's go back to video mode here, and we'll continue around the interface. You can see at the top here, it says 4 hours and 18 minutes. That's how much recording time is left on the memory card. It doesn't reference the battery. It doesn't mean we can record for 4 hours. We will run out of battery power long before that. It just basically shows us how much available recording time is on the memory card. And that will change depending on the settings that we use. Right now we're in highest quality, so we're recording at a high resolution. But if we change that down to a lower quality, you'll see that number go up. Now down here at the bottom left-hand side is our digital lenses, basically our field of view. That dictates how much is captured in the frame. You can have it as a very narrow field of view or a very wide field of view. To change that, we just tap on it, and you can see we get this slider here. Right now I'm in linear and horizon lock. In that mode, you get rid of the distortion, the fisheye that GoPros are notorious for. It kind of gives it more of a traditional camera look. And with this particular one, we have something called horizon lock. So if we're filming, we can actually turn the camera all the way around a full 360 degrees, and the image is going to stay perfectly level. The software is going to make sure everything stays level. Now, the only downfall to using linear, especially with horizon lock, is that the image is going to be very cropped in. So if you're trying to capture a really wide field of view, trying to get all the scenery, that's not the best option to use. But if you're trying to capture without any distortion and you want your horizon to stay perfectly level, that is your best option. The next one up is just linear. It doesn't have the horizon lock, so you will have a little bit of movement in the horizon, but you'll get rid of that distortion. The next one up is wide. That's kind of the standard filming mode. That's what I tend to film in quite a bit. You will have a little bit of distortion, but you'll have a nice wide field of view. Then we have something called super view. Again, that's just going to make the field of view very wide, but you will start to get a lot of distortion. You can see at the top of the desk there, we're starting to get a bit of a curve, and that is the distortion coming into effect. And the next is hyperview. That's going to give you the maximum widest field of view, but you will have quite a bit of distortion. But it is handy in some scenarios, especially if you need to capture yourself doing something. You'll be able to point the camera at yourself and basically get everything you want in the frame, but it will be heavily distorted. So quite often when I'm filming, it's either in linear or in wide. So that'll just become personal preference, and you'll just have to play around with them to see what you like best. At the bottom here, this is how we can change the quality of what we're capturing. You can see right now we're in highest quality mode, so we're capturing in 5.3K. Your video files will be quite a bit larger, and it may be harder for you to edit, depending on what kind of computer you're using. The next one down is standard quality. With standard quality, we are going to be filming in 4K. And we have 1080, and that's the basic quality. You're going to be able to fit a lot more on your memory card. You can see it's gone up to 10 hours now, but it is in a basic 1080. But if you're just filming for social media, 1080 is usually more than enough. Most of the time I do myself like to film in 4K, however. Beside that, you can see we have this little icon of an arrow. With that, we can actually set our aspect ratio. It makes it a nice simple way to set our aspect ratio. Right now we're filming in widescreen, which is traditional video, 16:9. But if we want to film for social media, we can actually set it to vertical. So now we're going to be capturing in vertical. So if you want to film for things like TikTok or YouTube Shorts or Instagram Reels, you don't have to go in and crop the video later yourself. And the last way we can film is full frame. And basically with it gives you almost a square image. What it's doing there is using the full sensor, and that allows you to later go in and crop it. You can crop it as a vertical video or horizontal video, and that way you can upload to multiple platforms just filming once. So a lot of people do like to film in that aspect. So again, that's going to be personal preference, whatever works best for you. And lastly, the interface there, it says 1x. That's basically our slow motion. Right now at 1x, we're just filming at regular speed. But we can click on that, and you can see we can set our slow motion speed. We can go up to 2 times. Basically, it's just going to change our frame rate automatically for us. We can go to 4 times. You can see we're now going to be filming at 4K 120 frames per second. And the max slow motion, which is 8 times. But as you notice there, it does bump us down to 2.7K, and it's going to be filming at 240 frames per second. I have a whole video I made on slow motion, so if you're new to slow motion, you want to learn a little bit more about it, I will link it down below in the description of this video. So again, that's something you can play around with. Most of the time when I'm filming in 1 times, which is basically 30 frames per second, or 60 frames per second. 60 frames per second is nice because you can still export it as regular, 1-time slow motion or regular speed, but you do have the option of slowing it down by 2 times if you just want to get a little bit more dramatic. Now I'm going to wait till we get to Pro mode before I show you all the different capture modes, because there's actually 3 different types of ways in which we can capture. So that's video mode. If we go over to photo mode, basically the interface is similar. But we're going to have a few different options here. On this side here is a timer, so we can turn on the timer. You can see there we can set a 3-second delay, or we can set a 10-second delay, again, whatever you need. We have our digital lenses again. We have wide and linear. And if we click on the mode there, you can see we can take a super photo, or we can take a night photo. So if you're going to be taking night shots, you would choose that option. And then of course, lastly, if we go over to time lapses, we have a bunch of different options here. We have time warp, star trails, light painting, and vehicle lights. Now I'm not going to get into all of them in this video, but those are just some things to keep in mind, some different special shooting modes that you can film. I am going to make a separate video going a little bit more into them in detail. Now a couple other things we can do here on this interface. First, we can preview the media that we've captured. We can slide up from the top. You can see it's going to go right into the last thing we've captured, but we can click that icon there at the top and it's going to give us a grid view of things we've captured. And we could just press on it to play it. We can pause it, we can delete it, we can adjust the volume. We can bring up a scrub bar if we just want to go through it quickly. At the top there we have a little icon of an eye, and that's basically going to bring up some information about the photo or the video we've captured. It shows us all the different settings we've used, which can come in handy if you want to see what you've done because you want to recreate it. Now the other thing we can do is go in and change our settings. If we swipe down from the top, we're going to come to a screen that shows us the basic settings that most people change on a regular basis. And again, you can see at the top we have 3 dots. It means we can swipe this way for more settings, or we can swipe the other way. But let's take a quick look at this menu first. At the top there, we can enable and disable voice commands, which we'll take a look at here in a minute. We can silence the GoPro, so if we don't want all the little beeps and everything, we can turn them off. That little icon of rapid is our quick capture, and again, we are going to take a look at that coming up here in a minute. We can lock the touch screen, which is important. Sometimes you don't want to accidentally change stuff, so we can lock or unlock the screen there. We can lock the orientation of the GoPro, so you can see when it's locked, everything stays one way. If we have it unlocked, you can see the interface and things will flip around, which sometimes we don't want to happen. And another important one, this one here will change the behavior of the front screen. It's not a touch screen, but we can turn it off altogether if we don't want to use it. We can have it display just information, no picture, just what we're filming, just different things about what we're filming. We can have it displayed as a traditional 16:9, or we can have a cropped in view. When we have the cropped in view, it's not going to frame it 100% correctly, but it brings it in closer, so it's sometimes easier to see. That doesn't affect the aspect of the video that you're recording on the memory card. It's just mainly how it previews. And beside that, we have our max lens mod. That's how we turn it on if we've got the max lens mod installed. And again, we'll take a look at that here coming up. The other thing we can do is swipe this way. That gives us information about our memory card, how much storage we have, whether we're uploading to the cloud. Now, I'm not going to get into that into this video, but this is how we can set that up if you want to automatically upload to the GoPro cloud. And from here, we can actually manage our memory card. We can delete it and do different things like that. Now, if we go the other way, this is where all our advanced settings are. We can pair devices such as remotes. This is where we change it from easy controls to the pro mode, which we'll do here in a second. And then we have all our advanced settings. Now, I'm not going to go through all of these, but it is a good idea to go through them, see what they all do, because there are some useful features in there. But what we are going to do is we're going to switch it over to pro mode. As mentioned, we're in easy mode right now. We're going to put it over to pro mode. Now, when we go back to the main interface, you can see things have changed. We still have our digital lenses on that side. That hasn't changed. But over here, you're going to notice we have the option to control our stabilization. By default, it's on. And that's what I would recommend to leave it on most of the time. The other option is boost. Basically, that is going to kind of crop in if it thinks it needs some extra stabilization, or it will crop out, giving you a wider field of view if it doesn't think, the software doesn't think it needs as much stabilization. The other thing we have down here are all our settings, so we can now go in and we can set things manually. We can set our resolution, our frame rate, we can adjust our digital lenses there, set our stabilization. We have all different settings that we can change, including Pro Tune, manual settings. So again, this is why they call it Pro Mode. You can really get in and dial things the way you want. If we go to our filming modes, when we click on that, you can see we have just one preset mode there. And again, we can click on that. It changes the settings for that mode, but we can create a new mode. We might want to film in HDR. Maybe this one will be a 5.3K. We might want auto boost on, and we can set whatever settings we want. We'll hit that check mark, and we can give it a name. Maybe we'll call this one Epic. So now we have a new filming mode called Epic. If we click on that again, you can see we have the original video one that was there, the default one, and we have this new one here called Epic. It would be nice if we could name them to whatever we want to be more descriptive, but unfortunately we can't. We just have to use GoPro's names. So you can create several of them for different types of filming that you're going to be doing, and we can adjust the settings for each individual mode. And that works the same in photo mode as well. You can see when we're in photo mode, we have some extra options. We still have our timer, our digital lenses, but we have our settings here that we can change, and we can actually set it up as a timed photo. So where it will just take a photo every 3 seconds, 10 seconds, 60 seconds, and so on. So that's good for some scenarios, but not something that everybody will use. And again, we can go in and change our settings. And they actually have different types of output. Right now it's set to super photo, but we can do HDR, we can do just a standard photo, or we can do RAW. If you want to go in and do all your own editing, your own grading, then you can set it as RAW. For the most part, I just leave mine in super photo because that works just fine. So that's basically just a quick rundown of the menu system, how to change a few settings, and how to switch back and forth between Pro mode and Easy mode. For some people, you may just want to leave it in Easy mode because it does everything you need it to do. For other people who want to get in and dial their own settings, then Pro mode is the better choice. So we're going to take a quick look at how to capture on your GoPro now. And as mentioned at the beginning, there's 3 different ways in which we can capture content. The first method is the most common. That's just by using the shutter button. And depending what mode we're in, it's going to capture that type of media. For example, we're in video mode right now. We'll just hit record, or the shutter button I should say, and it's going to start recording. We'll hit it again and it will stop. If we were to switch over to photo mode, we hit the shutter button, it's going to take a photo. And vice versa, if we go over to time-lapse mode, hitting that shutter button at the top will start the time-lapse. Now the second way to capture is by using our voice. And that was one of the questions during the setup when you first turned on your GoPro. It asked you if you wanted to use voice control and you could turn it on or turn it off. So depending on what you've done there, it might already be on. But if you didn't turn it on to start, we can turn it on and we can disable it at any time. If we swipe down at the top, you can see that's our voice activation there. So now it's enabled, now it's disabled. And if you want a list of the things you can say to your GoPro, if we go to our preferences there, we scroll down, we see an option there called voice control. Click on it, and then at the bottom there it says commands. We can click on it and it shows us everything we can say to our GoPro. So the first thing we can do is switch modes, and all we have to do is simply say GoPro photo mode. You can see the camera is automatically switched into photo mode. Or we can go to GoPro video mode. And there we go, we're now in video mode. And we can start recording by simply saying GoPro start recording. And it's now recording video, and we can say GoPro stop recording. Now what is interesting is we don't have to be in the specific mode. So for example, you can see we're in video mode right now, but I can say GoPro take a photo. And what you can see happen there, even though I was in video mode, as soon as I said GoPro take a photo, it automatically switched us to photo mode and took the photo. And same thing, now we're in photo mode, but I can say GoPro start recording. Again, it switched us into video mode and started recording. And even if you're using voice command, you don't have to use voice command to stop it. You can just hit the shutter button there again. So voice command can be very useful, but you do have to be careful with it because sometimes your GoPro will start recording for no reason. It thinks it hears a command and will start doing it. So for the most part, I tend to keep mine off. Now, as mentioned, there is a third way, and that is called quick capture. And it can be very useful in some scenarios. And as mentioned, we can disable and enable quick capture by selecting that rabbit. Right now it is turned on. So I'm going to go ahead and power the GoPro off here. So we'll just press and hold that power button. Basically with quick capture, what it does is instead of powering on your GoPro, selecting your mode, then starting and stopping recording, quick capture will just automatically power on your GoPro and start recording right away. And it does it very quickly. And that's useful, so it allows you to capture something that might be happening quick in front of you. You don't want to take all the time to power the GoPro on traditionally. And all we do is, you can see the GoPro is powered off. I'm going to hit the shutter button. And you can see the camera's turned on and recording in like less than a second. So that can come in very useful. And again, once I hit stop recording, the GoPro is just going to go ahead, stop recording, and power right off. So that's called quick capture. Well, folks, that's basically my beginner's guide, the basic functionality of the GoPro Hero 12 Black. Now, as mentioned, there's a ton of things we can still do with this that we didn't cover in this video. Some really advanced capturing techniques You can get creative, really adjust and dial in the settings, but I'm going to save them for more advanced tutorials. If you are new to the GoPro and you want to learn more about it, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos on the Hero 12 Black. We're going to make videos about transferring content to your iPad, iPhone, or even a PC. I'm going to do a full video on the GoPro Quick app, how to use it, some editing techniques both in the GoPro Quick app and in a traditional editor. I'm going to make a video about file management and how to use the cloud for editing, so make sure you stay tuned for them. Hopefully you enjoyed this video and you got some value out of it. Don't forget to hit that thumbs up button if you did. It's always greatly appreciated. Let me know down in the comments if you have any questions and I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.